going on, guys? Just getting back from the 2020 Krivapete Enduro race in San Leonardo near the Slovenian border. Needless to say, it was an interesting race. So things started off on Saturday with practice. As I mentioned in the announcement video for the race, it looked like there was going to be potential rain that weekend. Sure enough, Friday all the way into I think early Saturday morning, it downpoured. So it ended up soaking the trails. I've got some footage from practice. I did a lap once down the third stage, which is called Trivio. Did a solo lap and sighted everything in. There was two different splits that you could choose from at one point in the trail, so I had to figure out each direction, see which one seemed like it'd be the fastest, or in this particular case, the safest, because trail conditions were incredibly slick. All the rocks were so slippery, the dirt didn't inspire any confidence. It was just a mud fest. Ooh, not the way I wanted to go. Couldn't really maintain traction or control for a lot of it. This is a fresh cut section. It's super wet, muddy, loose. If anyone's ridden new trail while it's wet, this is the result that you get, especially this. Had to walk that section last time. Happy to make it now. Tight turn here. Oh. All right, those sections really got me last time. Happy to make it through. Hope these trails are more dry tomorrow. Oh, kind of saved that. Stage finish is right here too. Not what you want to do in the race. After a lap down stage 3, I went over to stage 1, which was bunker. Turns out that this trail was even wetter and slicker, and on top of that, it was significantly steeper than stage 3. So bunker was a really tough one to get down. They actually ended up closing off the second half of the stage, and they rerouted the course and had everyone go down a totally different trail just because it was so wet and deemed unsafe for the race. To be honest, conditions on Saturday for practice were so bad that stage 3 was pretty much the only rideable trail. I ended up meeting up with some other locals from Vicenza that I've ridden with before. So I met up with Filippo, Tommaso, and Matteo, and we had a really fun time getting a lap in on stage 3 together. So sketchy. Oh. After riding stage 3, Matteo and I headed over to stage 2. He'd gone down it once that morning. It was so wet and slippery that he could only ride maybe half of the trail, and so we were wondering if it maybe would have dried out a little bit by late in the afternoon. So I went with him. Turns out I ended up walking the majority of the way down the trail. Good. So slippery. Oh.
Yeah, you can do it.
I know. I'm gonna walk it. I'll do it tomorrow.
No.
Yep.
Do you want me to show this?
Yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah. I hate riding when it's wet, and I'm not afraid to admit it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's gripping right now. Outdoor power.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, if it was dry, no problem. I just do not have much confidence when it comes to riding in wet conditions. It's super slippery. I don't have a lot of experience and practice in it. On top of that, my rear tire, as I showed you guys in the announcement video, my rear tire was pretty much bald. I knew that going into it, and I knew that it probably wasn't going to work out very well, but I was optimistic that come race day, things would potentially dry out a little bit more. So I suppose that leads us into race day. So race day was on Sunday, and unfortunately in the riders meeting, they announced that GoPros weren't allowed for the race. I was super bummed because obviously I already told you guys I promised to film all the stages, that way there'd be footage of what the trails look like in San Leonardo. I wasn't able to make that happen. Trail conditions on Sunday were far from perfect. It was definitely way drier than it was on Saturday. The trails were actually rideable. That made it a much better experience for the race. However, it was still really slippery, and the trails there, they were no joke. Watching some of the YouTube footage previously, I was going into it thinking, oh, these trails would be totally fine. And in the dry, they definitely would have been. But in the wet, as soon as you factor in a little bit of moisture, those trails are super steep. They have a ton of tight turns and a lot of off-camber sections. So the whole time, your tires are just trying to slide right off the trail. So with those conditions in mind, I ended up crashing a bunch over the weekend on Saturday, but then especially on Sunday. I was having a really rough time trying to get down the trails. On stage 1A, I got through it all pretty clean, only had to dab a foot here or there. Stage B, I ended up riding blind because I didn't know that they were going to reroute the course, and so I was practicing the wrong trail on Saturday. And on stage 2, I pretty much walked the whole trail for practice on Saturday, so I really didn't get a good feel for what it would be like riding. So that stage didn't go well for me either. Had a few situations where I ended up falling off the bike or just having to get off because of getting caught up in rocks, whatever the case may be. At one point, I had the race tape completely wrapped around my body. I was grabbing it and trying to throw it off of me. I couldn't get it off. It was terrible. It was not a good stage. And then that leads us into stage 3. It's the one that I'd practiced the most. I felt the most comfortable and confident on. I was really looking forward to it. It was a really fun stage. Trivio is an awesome trail. And so I was bombing down the top section, felt really good. I was on a strong pace. Unfortunately, this is where I had my biggest crash of the weekend. So I popped out of the woods, got onto the fire road, went to sprint as hard as I could, full weight down on my right foot, and there was no resistance. Turns out while I was going through the chunky section in the trees, my chain had hopped off and I had no idea. So I completely lost my balance as I tried to stomp down with my foot. It threw me off balance, and then immediately after that, my chain hooked the rear wheel, locked it, so it brought my bike to a near halt and just flipped me right over the handlebars. I flew off the trail into a thorn bush and completely upside down. My bike went flying, but I hopped up as quick as I could, got my bike sorted, handlebars twisted back around, put the chain back on, continued on down the trail, and surprisingly, I still made out okay on the stage. Timing wise, I didn't do nearly as bad as I thought that I may have. So that leads us to the end of the race. It was just the 3 stages, with stage 1 being split up into 1A and 1B. And unfortunately, with all the mishaps and incidents and crashes that I had throughout the day, I wasn't really able to put it together like I was hoping to going into the weekend. But that part aside, the competition that showed up, man, everybody could ride. I know there were some riders from Italy, some riders from Austria, and also from Slovenia, maybe even a few other places, as well as one other rider that was from the United States, so that was pretty cool. But needless to say, I didn't put it together. I ended up 9th out of 10 in my category. It was a really pitiful performance, but if I didn't have those crashes and I didn't have those mishaps, I know for sure that I could have done better and put a better race together, but that's all part of racing. Above all, I had a fun time, and I was able to get a race weekend in before EWS at the end of August. As you guys know, that was my primary focus. I just wanted to get a race in. I was actually thinking about it, and this was the first race that I've done in almost a year. The last race I did was last year at the Enduro in Maryland in the United States, and it was in the middle of August. So I really can't complain too much. Just really glad to get out there and race and have a good time and get a feel for racing in Italy and what the environment would be like. Speaking of racing in Italy, in the announcement video, I mentioned all the gear that you would need in order to prepare for an enduro race. There was one crucial piece I left off of that list, and that is back protectors. Make sure that you get a back protector before you try to do any races in Italy. I didn't realize it. I had read through the requirements for the race and everything leading up to the event. I don't recall seeing anything about a back protector, but you do need one. They mentioned it in the riders meeting, and then they were checking to make sure everybody had back protectors. So be sure to bring a back protector when you're coming to race in Italy or Europe or anywhere like that. I know in the United States for enduro racing, they don't usually require it. So again, really sorry I didn't have any race footage for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the practice footage that I had though. It's pretty much still the same thing. You know, the courses don't change or anything, and it still is an individual sport for the most part, and you're just trying to go as fast as you can down the trail. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and tell me where to ride next. I wonder if he picked up that green water bottle.
La borraccia l'ho presa io. Come si dice borraccia?
He took the water bottle.
Yep, told you.